Good Thursday afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Southside Beat. My name is Chris Halicke, and not joining me today is Corey Christen. He is, as of right now, as far as we know, at Omar Khan's availability, which is going on right now. Again, as far as we know. Title of the episode, All Eyes on Omar. That's what I'm going to try to do today. I'm going to try to keep tabs on anything that might be coming out of Omar Khan's availability. Who knows if we'll be able to even get anything on this episode of the show. I would love to be able to get something on here so we can sink our teeth into something, because I am absolutely sure that anything that he said is going to be anything that he says is going to be of interest. He's the GM of the Steelers. There's a lot of stuff going on, flying around in terms of rumors and stuff right now. And so having the GM speak would obviously be a huge thing. And so it's just these type of meetings aren't your typical press conferences. He will have a typical press conference in about 30 minutes. But the meeting that goes on with local reporters are not your typical press conferences. And so who knows if we'll be able to even get anything from there. But hopefully we can. So I am going to do this. I'm going to pull up my absolutely free DKPittsburghSports.com app. And I am opening up and see, here we go. We got our Steelers feed right here. And that is the little entry, and hoping that we get updates from there. If we do, awesome. If we don't, then we still have some stuff we can talk about. Absolutely. So we would love to be able to get just about anything from why is iTunes all of a sudden popping up on my phone, or on my computer? This is hilarious. Get out of here. So yeah, that's funny. Brent, being a giver of gifts, five memberships here on YouTube. Appreciate it, Brent. Yeah. So hoping that we get updates from Omar. So this episode might be a little bit different, just because I do want to keep tabs on this stuff. So I'll set my phone right there. That way I don't have to have my eyes down so much. Yeah, be good. So just to kind of, set the table a little bit when it comes to this stuff and why we may or may not get updates from this live. When the season ends, obviously, Mike Tomlin does his end of season press conference. And then from that point on, availability with any of the three decision makers between then and the draft is pretty scarce. Obviously the first one is Art Rooney II. That usually, Chuck, really quick says, want to say thanks to Bill Hillgrove. I'm going to touch on that too today at some point for sure. Yeah, if you haven't heard the news, Bill Hillgrove is stepping down after 30 years of being the voice of the Steelers on Steelers Nation Radio, and just phenomenal person, phenomenal broadcaster. I'm definitely going to touch on that for sure. But so the availabilities with the three big guys atop the Steelers decision making tree. Art Rooney II begins usually a couple weeks after the end of the season. Select reporters, usually one from each outlet, in a closed room, no TV, no cameras. It's very, very much a kind of a closed, more roundtable interview type situation. Definitely more intimate. And that's pretty much that. And that, then Art doesn't speak again until the owners' meetings. But then from that point until the combine, again, nobody else is really talking. And then here at the combine, this is when Omar Khan gets his chance to talk. He does it twice. He will address local reporters. That does include TV. So it's not quite as intimate, which is kind of why, maybe we will get some updates. If TV's there, who knows if this can be live tweeted or live feeded, however you want to put it, from reporters who are there, because it's not quite as intimate. But then after that, and here today, it literally is back to back. He does do a formal press conference at the podium. All the media can be there. All the media that's there at the combine. And I'm sure that Omar Khan will be getting attention because the Steelers are definitely tied to a lot of rumors, and so people are going to be asking questions. And I'm sure he's going to give answers, whether they're really answers or not. He will give something that we can at least say, like, hey, this is what the Steelers are doing or not doing, or and then the next time anybody will talk after this will be the owners' meetings, which are just in a few weeks. Mike Tomlin does something very similar to kind of blending what Art Rooney and Omar Khan do, is that he will have first like a very small roundtable interview with select reporters, local, just reporters, no TV, no cameras, anything like that. Usually the first day at the owners' meetings, and then the second day or whenever the AFC breakfast is, that's when all the coaches will sit there and talk, and that's more of a formal press conference. So he'll speak twice at the owners' meetings, and then Art Rooney, the second, will obviously talk at the owners' meetings. He'll have his comments on any of the rules that are passed or which proposals were rejected, so on and so forth. And I'm sure he'll be asked questions about the recent report cards that came from the NFLPA. Good little break here. Barbara asked me, "Hey Chris, what are your hockey plans for when you come back?" To be honest, man, I don't know. With this promotion comes a lot of responsibility, a lot of hours working, and so I've got to learn how to balance that first before I can start really diving into doing something like hockey. But I would, sure would love to get into playing. I did play in a league up there. It was a roller league out in I forget where it was, but I did play in a roller league up there for one season, and it was fun for sure. But I definitely don't know what I'm going to do yet when it comes to that. I've got the move, and I've got the actual job with new responsibilities, everything like that to take care of first. So I'm going to do that. All right, let's get into some questions. I haven't seen any kind of updates from Corey. Let me just refresh real quick. Nope, no updates yet. So if Omar is talking right now, if we're 8 minutes in, I doubt he is actually there's actually going to be any live updates. So we may still end up getting something before the end of the show, because he's supposed to go up to the podium at 3:30. So I'm assuming that this initial meeting with reporters is not going to be very long, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, if that. And so we may end up getting something while Corey is in transit from where Omar is talking now to where he'll be addressing, the media at large. I'm sorry. I woke up this morning, my throat is feeling absolutely terrible. So I'm going to be taking swigs of water, and it's not easy to do when you're running a solo, but you got to do what you got to do. Oh man. This really sucks. Robert asks, Chris, when you move to Pittsburgh, will you start a DK Pittsburgh Sports hockey team? Probably not. Probably not. I don't know how many people. I know that DK at least used to play deck hockey. I don't know anybody else on staff who would be playing. But it'd be a lot of fun. Miss Pittsburgh says, I'm sure like sore throats are going around. Like I can't speak for Pittsburgh right now, obviously, but right now it's North Texas in February and March is one of the worst times of the year. This is like when typically the weather started to get a little bit better, a little bit more frequently. So things are now starting to bloom, which means pollen and everything else in the air is becoming very, very frequent. And then you add on top of that the gigantic swings in temperature. Shoot, man, I mentioned it on Monday's show, 90 degrees here, and now it is 54 outside, which is more typical for this time of year. So yeah, it's these, like, it could be 90 one day, it could be 50 another day. So it's yeah. Seeing some comments about quarterback situations. Honestly, I don't even want to get into any kind of quarterback conjecture today, just because Omar is talking, and pretty soon we're gonna get some um something, that we can actually put our finger on, something we can sink our teeth into when it comes to the Steelers' stance on quarterbacks. Omar Khan might be shooting down every rumor that there is and just flat out saying Kenny and Mason's gonna, that's our plan. Obviously, Mason's got to resign, but Omar is going to settle this once and for all. I'm sure. And if he doesn't, then let the rumors fly, because then at that point, it's not necessarily rumor anymore if the Steelers are open to doing stuff. But I really don't want to get too much into stuff that is kind of more on the conjecture side right now, just because I do want to see what Omar has to say. Just refreshed again, still don't see anything. Yeah. But all right, so I'm going to take this time real quick to talk about Bill Hillgrove. Yeah, definitely want to hit on that because, like I said, we get to the end of the show, we might be getting some updates from Indianapolis. So definitely want to say something about Bill Hillgrove. In case you're just now tuning in, Bill Hillgrove announced this morning, or it was announced this morning at Bill Hillgrove, after 30 seasons of being the voice of the Steelers on Steelers Nation Radio or the Steelers Radio Network, that he is stepping down after 30 seasons. As far as I know, he's still calling Pitt football and Pitt hoops, but he's stepping down from his duties as the Steelers play-by-play man. And I'm 36 years old. My first memory of football is the 1993 Steelers season. Like, that's my memory of football. Both my parents were born and raised Steelers fans, born and raised in the area, both born and raised in Moon Township. They were teenagers during the 70s. So they were, teenagers and young adults through the 4 Super Bowls in 6 years during the dynasty then. So they obviously were diehard Steelers fans. So I grew up with two parents that are diehard Steelers fans. And so, now 1993 was Jack Fleming's last season, as the play-by-play man. And so, but that's like the first season I remember, and, just watching seasons after that. And that's why I can tell you the Steelers went 9-7 in 1993. They lost to Joe Montana and the Chiefs in the wild card round, thanks to a blocked punt late in the game, and they were able to tie it, send it to overtime, and then the Chiefs ended up prevailing. So, and then 1994, obviously, that was Bill Hillgrove's first season. Remember that season very, very well, because the Steelers looked like they were going to the Super Bowl. And then obviously one of the biggest losses in franchise history, losing to the Chargers in the AFC Championship. And then 95, obviously, I can continue to go through, and the reason why I can remember those seasons so much is because, there were those Sports Illustrated video yearbooks that came out all the time. They were very, very popular, and my dad would always get one. And so, Lori remembers 3 more yards. That dang 1994 AFC Championship, man. One of the worst losses in franchise history, and I'm not just saying that. That was a hard one. That was a difficult loss for a lot of reasons. So, but there were those video yearbooks, and so when it wasn't football season, I wanted my football fix as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, and so I would watch those things over and over and over again. And those 1994 and 1995 yearbooks were filled with Bill Hillgrove's voice, because those were always filled with the the team's play by play, and so I grew up watching those video yearbooks where Bill Hillgrove and Myron Cope were on the call on a lot of those highlights. And so, obviously as I continued to get older, and then I lived in Pittsburgh for a little while, Bill Hillgrove for me was like the voice that I heard when it was just synonymous with the Steelers. a lot like Mike Lang with the Penguins. I understand, Mike Lang's a little bit on a different level just because of how legendary he is. But Bill Hillgrove, in my opinion, is right up there when it comes to the Steelers, man. And then obviously once I took this job, and got to meet Billy, and got to whenever we'd be on the road, covering a team, and happen to be at the same restaurant, because a lot of the, reporters like myself and Dale became good friends. So we, go out to dinner or whatever like that, and sometimes Billy be there too, and anytime I'd be around Billy, man, just everybody's smiling, everybody's laughing, everybody's having a good time, man. The dude's just a phenomenal human being. And so not only to see, to have the impact that, to have his voice be synonymous with the Steelers whenever I was a kid. But then to, through this job, get to meet him, get to talk to him, and just see how great of a person he is, man. This is truly bittersweet because Steelers fans that have listened to him for the last 30 years, man, it's going to be different. It's just going to be different. And whoever the next person is to take on that role, they've got really large shoes to fill. Really large shoes to fill, and it's not a knock on anybody, on whoever gets that job, but it's just a testament to just how good Billy is at his job, and yeah, it's. But I'm also really, really happy for him, man. He gets more time to do what he wants to do, and so yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I'm so happy for him, but it's also a day that Steelers fans are allowed to be a little sad, because, like I said, his voice is just synonymous with the Steelers, in my opinion. And for me, for me, like outside of, a couple seasons, 1992, 93, that was like, I was 5-6 years old at that time. So that's like as far back as usually you can remember. So, outside of those first couple of years where, you heard Jack Fleming's voice on highlights and stuff like that, it's been Bill Hillgrove my entire life. And so, just so happy for Billy, man. Dude's an awesome guy. Awesome guy. I wish him the best. And I've been seeing like comments from you guys, saying, so just so many kind things about him. And it's just, yeah. It's awesome. So, I'm going to refresh the feed real quick again, just to see if there's anything. Don't see anything yet. Doesn't mean he hasn't talked. Don't see anything yet. Yeah, don't see anything yet. So, all right, let's get to some, let's get to some questions. Let me try to scroll through the comments here. See if we can find some questions before we possibly see anything with Omar. Hope everybody's doing good today. And if we don't get a chance to talk about any of the stuff that Omar says today, we definitely will hit on it tomorrow. 100%. I'm sure we'll have a lot to break down, because even if we were to get everything 10 minutes or so, it's probably not enough time to talk about everything that Omar is talking about today. So we will definitely be getting more to this, and so more to that tomorrow. Paranormal on the Funhouse asks, is Ramon there? He is at the combine, yes. And so that's pretty typical. Let's see. Oh, right. Let's go through some comments. Dead air. This is like a big no, but it's a podcast, so it's a live show. I'm running this solo. I don't have a. Damon asks, what do you think about Sweat, the D tackle from Texas? I mean, he's definitely interesting, with the size and then with the athleticism. I mean, there's definitely interest there, for sure. The Steelers could definitely, benefit from adding to the defensive line. Obviously, if you look at what the Steelers have currently, with Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, Keanu Benton, they've got some good, some names there, but obviously you have to worry about, is Cam Hayward going to be able to stay healthy at his age? Ogunjobi, 2 seasons in which, he doesn't practice very much because he's constantly, having to, take care of some sort of minor injury. And he's playing through something seemingly all the time. And it just seems like that the production is not quite there for what's being paid, and so I know Ogunjobi is very, very well is loved in that locker room. But at the end of the day, they might need to add to that. And so a guy like Sweat, if it's the right play at the right spot in the draft, and they've shored up, something, I would assume Sweat would probably, as of right now, go in the second round. And so I think, if they shored up, cornerback or center or something like that, and just the way the draft fell, that Sweat is probably best player available in the second round. I think that's an interesting pick there for sure. Here's an interesting question. Jerry asked, Chris, what position did you play in football? I actually put this in the comments yesterday, but I'll say it on here. I played receiver and free safety. I am more offensive minded, so I wanted to play receiver more, but I was a starting free safety, and I didn't play past 9th grade for several reasons, but free safety was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. Got to hit people, and I definitely enjoyed that. So those are the 2 positions I played, were free safety and receiver. Let's see. Turk says, hey, Chris, this should be working with Omar, maybe the Southside Beat ticket giveaway. It doesn't work like that. Media is not gifted tickets. It doesn't work like that. That'd be nice. It'd be good, but no, that's not the way it works. I think that's one misconception that I think a lot of people get. Like I remember the first time when I first got hired to cover the Rangers, and my first job. I had, a few people that would kind of make that tongue in cheek joke, kind of rubbing elbows and be like, "Hey, give me tickets, eh?" And same thing kind of happened whenever I first took this job, and when it came to Steelers games or Pirates games. Media is not gifted tickets. It's does not happen, and you're not allowed to ask for tickets. So that's just not part of it. That's not anything that I ever think about when it comes to. That's not anything I ever think about when it comes to the job. Let's see. Interesting comment here. Because we can talk about something that's tangible here with this. Anthony says Kenny and Mason cannot coexist at the same time, or cannot coexist at this time. Sorry. Each would have to play looking over their shoulder after a bad game. Mason shined when there was nothing to lose. I say take a big swing for Fields. I think there's some truth to that. I do think that if Mason Rudolph resigns, that Kenny would feel pressure, and, honestly, he should feel pressure, I think that's, based off of the first 2 seasons. And again, you can chalk it up to whatever. You can chalk it up to whatever. You can chalk it up to Matt Canada. You can, put it solely on Kenny, however it is. Spice Creations actually coming through right now saying Omar made a statement about the quarterback. I'm looking in our live file right now. I'm trying to see. I don't see anything right now, but just because it hasn't come doesn't mean it's not out there. Yeah, I don't know. I'll be looking. But, when it comes to, Demont says DK just dropped it. Well, unfortunately, I can't watch in case it's like a video or something like that. I can't watch videos as we're recording. So this might be something that we have to, Okay. Well, Randy says Corey just posted a video on YouTube. So I would suggest go over, in our YouTube channel and go watch what Omar said. You'll learn about it before I will. That's part of doing a live show at the same time that the general manager is talking. But I would assume, even without knowing what was said, that Kenny should feel pressure. Sorry, really quick. Jim says, look at all the multitaskers. Yep, and they're way better at it than I am. I'm not a great oh, here we go. Joseph Donovan says smoke screens. They're not going to trade for a quarterback. No. Again, without actually seeing what Omar said, I'm not trying to say anything that Joseph said is wrong, but shoot, man, that if that's what Omar said, that does not shock me whatsoever that's said. Again, all this talk that we've had about Justin Fields and all the rumors and everything like that, none of that shocks me. None of that shocks me at all. We have constantly said through all the talking that we've done on here that all the talking that we've done here, I've said this is what happens when you try to multitask. Spice Creation says he said he's obligated to look at every avenue. Okay. Also said that's just a GM doing his job. If Omar Khan does not pick up the phone and talk to I can't think of the Bears GM's name off the top of my head, but if he does not give the Bears a phone call and at least see what the price is for Justin Fields, he's not doing his job. You gotta open it. If you limit yourself, then your ceiling is only here. If you never make that phone call, you never know. Maybe it lines up with what you're willing to do. Maybe it doesn't. But at least it's kind of the same thing, whenever, like anytime I try to encourage my son or daughter to, ask for permission for something, it's like the worst they're going to tell you is no. They're not going to hit you. They're not going to clothesline you. There's not like there's some sort of terrible consequence. Just ask the question. At least you have an answer, and so, if Omar calls the Bears and they say, yeah, we want a first round pick, Omar Khan, click. All right, got my answer. We're not trading for Justin Fields. If that's just the way it goes. But that's a GM doing his job, man. That's what GMs do. They just, oh, wait, we are getting updates on the feed. Woohoo! All right. Omar Khan stressed a, quote, full faith, unquote, in Kenny Pickett, but otherwise noted the Steelers are obligated to look at every avenue, quote, unquote, for the position. So again, it's kind of that same situation that we're talking about. They're committed. They're confident in Kenny Pickett. But again, Omar's not doing his job. Unless he's making every phone call and he's exploring, as he put it, every avenue. No timetable on a Cole Holcomb return from his injury. Okay, that's a bit interesting, but I think that becomes more interesting once we get closer to OTAs. Let's see. He was non-committal on whether the Steelers would pick up Najee Harris's fifth-year option. That doesn't surprise me too much right now. It's a bit early on that. GMs don't like to tip their hands completely. On Mason Rudolph, quote, we've talked to his representative and we want him back, unquote. Again, reinforcing what Art Rooney and Mike Tomlin have both said about Mason Rudolph. That does not surprise me whatsoever. That just continues to being reinforced that probably remains the Steelers' priority is to re-sign Mason Rudolph. And let's see, consider the sharp increase in salary cap relative, quote, that word relative was a quote. Consider the sharp increase in the salary cap, quote, relative, unquote, and that it applies to everyone. They will use as much of that cap as they can. And that's what the Steelers do. The Steelers typically they have very little rollover when it comes to the salary cap. That does not surprise me again. Let's see. Jerry asks, any timetable on Mason? Probably not until after the legal tampering period begins with free agency. Which I believe is a week from Monday. So we are a week and a half from that. I'm sorry, I have my kid's big calendar over there. I would not expect them re-signing Mason before free agency begins or even the legal tampering period begins. And the reason why is that Mason has earned every right to see what his options are elsewhere. It doesn't mean that he doesn't want to come back. It doesn't mean that he doesn't like the Steelers anymore. That's just a free agent doing his due diligence. If he puts himself, it's kind of the same thing as a GM closing off potential opportunities that you don't know that are there. You got to at least see what's there. Get to the legal tampering period, see what teams are willing to what teams are willing to offer. If I'm sure that Omar's already said they've been in contact with his representation, so I'm sure the Steelers have a good idea of what Mason's looking for, or at least have some sort of foundation with what he's looking for, and so I'm sure also his representation is not completely tipping their hand either. I'm sure that they want to get to a situation in which they can talk to all 32 teams and see what's there, and if what the Steelers are willing to offer when it comes to either money and or his role on the team, he may be willing to go somewhere else. It just might be the best fit for him. There's a lot of variables that go into free agency decisions, and it's always different for every player. Some free agents, it's all about money. Some free agents, it's a lot about money, but some about location. The quality of the franchise, whether they're trying to win, or like how much they're trying to win. There's a lot of variables that go into free agency decisions, and Mason Rudolph has earned every right to go to free agency and earn that. And if he re-signs with the Steelers without ever looking at the rest of the market, he kind of puts himself in a box. And so I don't foresee a re-signing happening. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying I don't foresee it happening. Let's see if there are any other updates. Let me refresh the feed real quick. If there's anything else coming from there, I'm sure that there's, his podium is now beginning. So, okay. Here we go. Khan was asked straight up if the Steelers are trading for Justin Fields. And here is the quote that Corey put into the feed. I'm not going to go into details about the conversations that we've had, but like I mentioned earlier, I can tell you that I have an obligation to look at every avenue that's out there and try to make us a better football team. So there's that. That does not, again, and to be completely honest, there's a couple of reasons why that Omar won't go into any details. Number one, I actually think it's against league rules for them to talk about players that are not either on the roster or are that were on the team last year that are about to become unrestricted free agents. Like, he can talk about Mason Rudolph because he was on the team and isn't yet technically an unrestricted free agent. So he's allowed to talk about Mason Rudolph. I don't think he's allowed to talk about specific players that are not on the team. I believe that's against league rules. So he can't talk about Justin Fields. So that's one thing. The second thing is that why would he go into any kind of details about conversations and possibly tip his hand on what they're doing, because you lose leverage at that point. If he says, yeah, we're going hard after this guy, or we are in big, gigantic, we're really close in talks with the Bears or with somebody on the trade market. Why possibly drive the price up when you don't have to? There's just certain things that make sense when it comes to it's just certain things that make sense when it comes to why you might get some answers that seem vague. But the fact that he's not completely shooting things down, saying, no, we're not trading. Like Art Rooney II said, it's unlikely that we make a big trade, but Omar is saying I have to explore every avenue. Again, that doesn't mean that the chances of them trading for Justin Fields go from 1% to 50% or anything like that. It just means that's a GM doing his job. And that's what he's going to say. And that's the right answer. Sorry if I seem like I'm all over the place. I'm just trying to get as much as I can because I actually have to end this here in a few minutes. But we will talk way, way more about this tomorrow. Corey's another thing from Corey says it's still very clear that competition is important to Khan. That goes for every position, including quarterback. Bada bing, bada boom. Yeah. Anthony Horton says, ... So there have been conversations. See, that's the thing is that have there been? Have there not been? Again, like just because even if in that little portion in which Omar says, I'm not going to go into details about the conversations we've had, it doesn't mean that they are like in serious talks with the Bears about trading for Justin Fields. Again, that is a GM doing his job. He may be saying that, and literally all that's happened has been one phone call to the Bears to see what's your asking price. And then if they say something like first round pick, click. No thanks. Moving on. They had a conversation technically, but then that's the end of it. But are they having continual conversations? Maybe the price is reasonable for what Omar is willing to do. Lori says makes a good point here. Maybe the Bears called them again. It is Omar's job to literally look at. And B Phil says it here. All GMs talk. Exactly. This is what GMs do. They talk. They will talk to each other. It is their job to talk to everybody to see what's there. And honestly, that's what it's good to see that he's just not completely shooting that stuff down, because honestly, going into and having blind faith that Kenny Pickett is 100% your guy, undisputed, unquestioned. Yeah, that's not the way to go, because Kenny hasn't shown enough in the first 2 seasons that he has earned that right, because he hasn't. And Mike Tomlin's been very clear about that there will be competition. That was the last thing we heard from Mike Tomlin. And I'm sure based off of what happens either with a trade or what happens in free agency, that when Mike Tomlin speaks at the owners' meetings in a few weeks, that we'll get more clarity on that, because things might quite possibly have changed since then. Sorry, I knocked my camera over through all my animated talking. Okay, a couple more minutes, and then I've got to wrap this thing up. So, yes. All right, let's see. Let's go through and see anything else. Anything else from Omar Khan? I think this is a typo from Corey, but I can always fix that. He said he would go into any detailed conversations about whether the Steelers have reached out to the trade market. I think I said he wouldn't go into any detail, because that would make more sense, but that's fine. He's doing a lot right now. Typos are allowed. I've made typos, plenty of them. Quote from Omar Khan: "We are excited about Kenny and excited about the impact that Arthur Smith is going to have on the offense." Kenny Pickett's the quarterback right now. Arthur Smith is the new offensive coordinator. Again, that's typical stuff. So yeah, Frank K says, "I have full faith in Kenny." A Khan quote from today. Yeah. Again, he's not going to sit there and blast Kenny. He still is the only quarterback on the roster. And as of right now, again, as far as we know, looking at all the evidence, the Steelers' primary focus is Kenny Pickett, and then adding Mason Rudolph or re-signing him in free agency. That is the priority. As for in terms of the evidence, that's what the priority is. And so quotes like that about having full faith in Kenny does not surprise me at all. It also doesn't surprise me that Omar Khan's possibly had conversations with other teams about possibly trading for a quarterback, because again, that's just the GM doing his job. So, all right, I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Let's see here. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything else really, really big. No, I think that's everything that's in the feed right now. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap this show up for today. Mike in Texas. Don't do this to me. Did I just see that Cam got a 4-year extension? I haven't seen that. Doesn't mean that didn't happen. But I haven't seen that. And if, obviously I've got to end this, but if it did happen, it'll be in our feed ASAP. But you definitely have me at least give me the opportunity to try to reach out to people. But no, I gotta wrap this up, but definitely a lot of what Omar is saying today. We're going to have way more. We've got stuff in the feed right now. It's going to continue to get updated from Corey. He's going to write about it later, so he'll have something. And then absolutely tomorrow. I don't want to spread anything out there. 4 years. Don't know for sure. Don't know if that's actually happened or not. So I just, again, not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. But we will have plenty to talk about when it comes to Omar, when it comes to all that stuff. Tomorrow's going to be a jam-packed show. This is already a long one today, but we'll have even more tomorrow because we'll be able to really dive into what Omar Khan said in its entirety, and apparently any other Steelers news that might be happening today. So, yeah. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, leave comments. Really appreciate. Robert, thank you so much for tuning in. Said, see you, my first show with you. Very good time. Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert, for tuning in. Love anybody who's watched this, whether you've watched it for 1 year, or 1 year, whether we're not even at a year yet, whether you've watched it for one episode or all 127. Really appreciate you guys so much. Be here tomorrow, same time, 3:00 Eastern. Hopefully have Corey tomorrow. I would assume that it would be that Corey would be able to join, but again, don't know that for sure. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Much love. Catch you guys on the flippity flip. See you tomorrow.